our people out, and they say no, and he just kind of walks away weakly and says, okay, and that's not America. But we set the terms because we're the most responsible country in this world. We're supposed to be setting the terms for stuff like that. And for him to just weakly go away like that and abandon our people, it's bad enough in my view, even if it was just the Afghanis that helped us. But it's actually American citizens too. I mean, that's unforgivable to me. And he demonstrated clearly that he's not willing to deal with the mess or get his hands dirty on something like that, where he can just go ahead and continue to live off of the living that he's made and so many other Democrats have made. I mean, Pelosi's another one. I'll just jump to that for a second because she's the one who was talking about the stock trading that, despite having insider information, that they should be able to still, the Democrats, or Democrats are saying the politicians should be able to continue to trade on stocks, even though they use, and quite openly and currently exempt from insider trading information. So, I mean, I think back to, sort of a line from, I think it was Marie Antoinette, but a little updated. I feel like if people would say to Pelosi, you shouldn't be able to profit off of inside information because it's against the law for everyone but politicians. It should be against the law for them too. I feel like her answer would be, I wouldn't get out of bed in the morning just for a congressional salary, and if the peasants don't like it, let them eat ice cream, because she likes the ice cream, not the cake, in her freezer. So it's that kind of attitude that she has. That, I mean, she's not even capable of hiding that ugliness, and it's the typical Democrat. And it's amazing to me how many people still think that they are for the people when all of them show their elitist colors all the time, and they're just taking every bit of the pie that they can get away with before they get kicked out eventually. And in the case of Pelosi, and several others, it's been way too long. That's why one thing that I've talked about for at least a couple of years now on a regular basis is the term limit idea. Also, one other Republican congressional candidate in New Jersey, Billy Prempa, has got the same strategy. We've got 8 years for the president now. We want to make it 10 for the House and 12 for the Senate for absolute term limits. And he and I, as well as a few other candidates, have made the pledge that that's all we will do. And even if the rule isn't changed to make it so by then, we're going to abide by it because that's what's right. It's got to be a situation where people who've been in the government too long, really at any level, there should be a limit, and where the rotation happens, new people come in, new blood, new ideas, and that's what keeps things moving in a positive, progressive direction, actually. And I don't mean progressive in the liberal way, but in terms of progress. That's the only way to make it happen.
And that would be turning government back over to the people, by the people, for the people. Because, like you so as eloquently stated, have a person like Pelosi, spent her whole life in politics, multi-millionaire, became multi-millionaire insider trading, where go to jail every year for insider trading, except for elitist politicians. And it's sad. There is two systems, two standards of law and government. Shouldn't apply to it. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I don't know. For her, it's just such an example of the sort of bad behavior, and it's just not understandable. I believe it was Truman, maybe, had said years ago. I could be wrong, but I think it was him that said, if you have someone, show me someone who gets rich while they're in public office, and I'll show you a crook. It's basic. That's why, I was hoping at the time more people would recognize that at least when Trump was in office, he was already wealthy and his wealth actually came down. there was no way that he was using his power to make personal, financial gain. But the numbers just don't add up that way, and yet so many Democrats have done exactly that, and that's why they really have to be replaced. We have to get some common sense patriots. Again, the thing we mentioned at the top, the America First, candidates, the patriots. Those are the folks we need now. We need to go back to the strict constitutional construction. And I've had a few folks in various congressional districts running this year in New Jersey that we're sort of branded together as the Patriot slate. So our hope is that we get noticed in all our various districts, and that people will recognize the true patriots from the fakers or the pretenders, and again, also stop turning to the same folks that are so entrenched because of a lifetime of service. I mean, I respect everyone's service. I know it's very hard to do public service, and to even pursue it is a hurdle, but also to have that responsibility day in and day out. But regardless of what level of office you're in, I feel like, after 20 years even, it's really time to turn it over to someone else. And so, me personally, I'm dealing with, in my primary race, a couple of folks who are the rear politicians, or, on the other side of it, the rhino and hiding kind of thing, because we've had a lot of statewide races lost in the Republican Party because of rhinos being put into the race. And some of them now trying to pretend to be America First, but the record is there. It's hard to deny. So, my vote is, I've got a consistent record as the Patriot candidate and perspective. I'm trying to remind people that I've been consistent and steady with that, and that this is the direction the country needs to go in to save itself at this point.
You're listening to American First Patriot Podcast, where we have U.S. congressional candidate from New Jersey's 6th District, Gregg Mele, who is an attorney, and we're talking about the Constitution. We're talking about the overreach, power, bloated government, and the like. We're talking about corrupt politicians and how they have influenced their position to gain wealth. You're absolutely correct. We have to get back to fundamentals. If we want our country, our republic back, and we have to get back to fundamentals at all levels, even at the education level. We're not teaching our kids trades. We're not teaching our children how to survive home economics, basic things that we all, I think I might be just a couple years older than you, Gregg, but these are things that we had in school. Whether, I took cooking, we had wood shop, we had all of these things, sewing, or whatever. We had these things and these experiences that, if nothing else, when we graduated high school, we could at least be independent and survive and take care of ourselves in grammar school.
Yeah, I remember too.
And, I took typing in high school, but, we got to get back to basic critical race theory and all these other disastrous things that do not help our children compete, survive, and thrive. We need to denounce it. I know you're against any type of oppression, critical race theory, victimization, and all this other garbage that they're trying to promote as a theory, as well as, I don't believe that any adult should be talking to kindergarten, first graders, second graders, or any children about sex. I don't think that is their place. An adult that feels comfortable talking to a stranger, a child at that age, I have some deep concerns.
Yeah.
Deep concerns.
Yeah, it's one of the things you constantly hear from. I'm the oldest year of Gen X, but you hear that from Gen X and some boomers. The childhood that we had, it was priceless, and it's totally lost today. The problem is with education in general is that, to summarize a couple of the specific points you made, they're teaching the kids conclusions as if they're facts, instead of teaching the facts and encouraging them to think critically and examine from all sides and come up with their own conclusions. That's really how you learn, in the best way, so that you're the best prepared to deal with the world when you grow up. And I see it all the time. I mean, I have dealt with my share of younger people, high schoolers, recent graduates, college students, even recent college graduates too, and I hear the same kind of thinking from them. I mean, they'll take often enough, they'll take one fact that's been taught, which is totally out of context and in a vacuum, and they will be able to just draw from that one fact a conclusion they want. So then they ignore all the other analysis that really needs to come in, and they don't even agree to recognize that their analysis is limited and that they really haven't looked at all those angles. And if they did, they'd have a different conclusion, which maybe they don't like. I mean, it's funny that you hear, for example, in interviews that I've heard over the years from people who were in Germany during World War II, and they talked about, everything was, your parents don't know what they're doing, and you don't have, you're smarter than them, and you don't even need to go to school. You could just go out in the courtyard and play all day. It's okay because you guys are just so great. Well, the lack of pressure on the kids and push to excel and really critically think and succeed, that's what happened there. And kids were told that long enough, they were convinced that they didn't have to work hard to be productive or whatever else, or useful members of society. And we see a lot of that now. I mean, the kids, like I said, they'll look at one angle out of a 10-angle problem and think that they've done hard research, and it hasn't even cracked the book open hardly compared to the kind of research you and I know to be real research. And they're left in the dust. They're not able to deal with even ordinary problems, let alone extraordinary situations. And they come back to mommy and daddy often, and they're like, okay, I need your help again. I need you to take care of this like you always have. And it's like, no, that's not what mommy and daddy are supposed to do forever. They guide you so that you start making your own decisions. And it's very sad how the kids growing up now are so dependent compared to years past. I mean,
yes.
In my time with college, I mean, there were a quarter of the people were going to college when I was graduating and getting into that stage of life. And even the college graduates, I mean, we were all expected to be ready to live on our own at 18. That's it. If you had to move out and be in an apartment, you were expected to be okay. You were expected to be able to handle it. And that was the parents' role, was to get you ready for 18, and that was it. And you weren't supposed to get anything else except for the college students' tuition. That's it. But and now the kids don't have any work experience. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gregg, as I'm listening to you talk, I'm very fortunate that my parents went to college. They were educated. But as I'm listening to you talking, I'm a baby boomer.
Mm-hmm.
My mother and father says, if you want to go to college, I'm going to give you $1,000. And you're going to go to college. If you want to go, you're going to get a part-time job. You're going to work and you're going to earn it. Mm-hmm. You're right. We were, excuse the terminology, we were pushed for independence. We were, you're going to learn how to make it on your own. And that type of upbringing, my kids were brought up like that, thank God. But it's not common today. And, and even in school, we talk about the lack of ability to rational think, to really analytically think and solve problems. We're not teaching our kids critical thinking skills. That's important. If we can't think properly and solve problems, how are we going to be able to function? And, can't take these things for granted, let alone that we still have a graduate of children who can't read and write, probably the highest in the world, per capita. We look at really kids from the inner cities that graduate that can't still read and write. or can't fill out a resume. I mean, basic functions